Beep, 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 beep. Morning. How are we doing? Right, okay. A couple of things today for you to consider, which I found quite interesting in their juxtaposition. So, I like that word. Juxtaposition. Full of shit. Right, okay, so here we go. Right. What's going on with Sunak? So I've got an article from the Daily Express. Express yourself. The Daily Express, right? This is insane. Rishi Sunak pledges to protect women's rights. That's why I support Express campaign. Now, subscribe, will you? Click on the thing. Just subscribe, please. Go buy me a coffee, become a warrior teacher, usual. Right, okay, so here we go, right? Rishi Sunak today declares, on the 24th this was, I know what a woman is. Just... What? It's 2023 and people are having to say this. I know what a woman is. It's like getting a certificate for turning up. You know, come on, Rishi. I know what a woman is, as he throws his backing behind our crusade. This is the Express. Now, as a jester and a person who is the head warrior teacher, I'm quite comfortable with crusades. Although they were an absolute shit show in reality, right? People went fought for the wrong side, all sorts of things went wrong. Right, the Prime Minister pledges his support for MPs Miriam Cates and Rosie Duffield, both two extraordinary women of strength who have been pivotal in some of the activities in the gender critical movement as it moves forward. So, writing for the Daily Express, Mr. Sunak champions our campaign against trans extremism, which means even words like woman or mother are being called into question. You and I know that's the least of it. You know, it's very important that both those words mean what they mean, but that's just one symptom of a much larger malaise coming from trans extremism and queer theory, queer theists in universities and organisations around the country. It is in his strongest intervention on the issue so far, he explains that as a father of two daughters, women's rights are personal to me. You don't need to be a father of two daughters, Rishi. You just need to be a human being that understands reality and decency. That's all you need to be. Stop making excuses to pander. Somebody said I used the word pamper wrongly. I don't think I do, but there we go. Who do you think you are? Pamper and pander. There, now we're both happy. Pamper and pander to these nutters. Labour's Miss Duffield and Conservative Miss Cates. See? It's not about left and right, it's about right or wrong. That's all it is, right and wrong. Miss Cates came together in our newspaper last week to put the issue at the top of the agenda ahead of local elections on May the 4th. So it's going to be at the top of the agenda on elections on May the 4th, called that last year. We knew this was coming. It was going to be a big thing. It's going to decide the election in America. It's going to decide the election over here. They've got the fight they wanted. And the British public, we'll see what happens when they start campaigning to inform the British public about what this is about, because that's what I'm interested to see if they're going to do. If you've seen Lawrence Fox's video on the history of drag queen storytime, that's exactly what Rishi needs to do. You'll know what I'm talking about. Know what I mean? Mr. Sunak wrote, I am pledging my support to Miriam Cates and Rosie Duffield. Call to protect women's rights and ensure the dignity of women and girls by preserving single-sex spaces, such as women's refuges and rape crisis centres. The PM said he has enormous compassion and understanding for people questioning their identity. If you're spending time questioning your identity, you haven't got enough going on in your life. Compassion. Do something. You know? Paint a fence. Rather than taking it. Oh, I just amuse myself sometimes. Miss Cates and Miss Duffield have 5 key demands that are vital in protecting women in the clash with trans rights. It's not a clash with... I wish they'd stop calling it that. Right? It's not a clash, it's an insurgency by these nutters, okay? It's a defence, is what women are doing. They're playing defence because these people are invading, colonising, cuckooing, magpieing swine. Why can't they say it like it is? They called for single-sex space protection for children, female-only sporting categories, the preservation of language such as mother and the right for women to raise concerns without being branded bigots. Those demands were backed wholeheartedly by Sunak. He wrote, when it comes to women's spaces, women's prisons, changing rooms, sports, health, I believe that biological sex really matters. Well, welcome to the party, Rishi. I know what a woman is, and I'll protect women's rights and women's spaces. That's why I'm supporting the Express's campaign today. Mr. Sunak's unequivocal statement that he knows what a woman is and biology matters will come as a relief to many who feared speaking out in case they faced a backlash. And it comes in stark contrast to the position taken by Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer, who insists some women have penises. Starmer, you charmer. Right, I think it's possible that they'll win the election, Labour, and then we're all fucked. But I mean, it's possible they will. But wouldn't it be absolutely glorious, even for those of my GC friends who see themselves as left, right? Even for you, right? Wouldn't it be absolutely glorious if the fact that Labour lost the general election was wholly attributed to his ability to recognise that women don't have penises? I mean, that would be, can you imagine the line in the history books? 100 years from now, people will go, there was a time when the leaders of the modern world that was 2023 threw themselves upon the pyre of gender identity ideology and insisted that women can have penises. This ended abruptly. Wouldn't it be great if they lost? That's all I want. I want them to lose on that one thing alone, because the rest of it we'll deal with. But that one thing alone, we'll stop this nonsense now. Get rid of the GRA, get out of the Equality Act, get rid of the whole lot. It's easier, right? Nobody needs it anyway. It's just nonsense, and it hurts people, as you'll see, right? Okay, in my videos in the next couple of days. Right, so here we go. The Labour leader also publicly denounced Miss Duffield as wrong for stating that only women have cervixes. Starmer, I've ordered him a spade, right? I'm going to send it to him, a little trowel. Start thinking. The Canterbury MP said a London-centric clique close to Sir Keir had left her isolated. What surprise? Labour has cliques. Well, collectivists will do that. Sir Keir had left her isolated and she had relied on the kindness of Conservative MPs to make life in Parliament bearable. Miss Duffield, who is a survivor of domestic abuse, said, I'm grateful to the Prime Minister for making such a clear statement about protecting these spaces for women who need and deserve to feel safe. Voters have every right to know where all politicians stand on these matters. And I think the voters are going to be asking the question, where the hell are you on this? Miss Duffield and Miss Cates have championed the need for women's rights, secured over a century of hard-fought battles to be protected when there is, again, the word clash with trans rights. First of all, nobody knows what trans is. That's the first thing. Secondly, Rishi knows what he's doing. Right, because now Keir Starmer, because you've got to remember, right, the Tories are frightened of being called the nasty party, right, because they did Section 28 and people thought that was a bad thing, right? It wasn't a bad thing, it was a good thing, right? And even a gay man like me will say that, because it was designed to get a certain portion of people who had latched themselves onto the gay cause. Get rid of them and stop them from getting into schools, which is why it happened, because they pushed too far, right? Ne'er-do-wells, they were ne'er-do-wells, right? That's what they're worried about. Is you don't want to be seen as the nasty party once more. Labour can beat them up with a stick, even though they're lying about it for years, right? Which is what would happen, because most people that support Labour wouldn't want to find out whether it's true or not, right? I don't know why, but they didn't. So they fall for the crap. But it's interesting now that if old Kier Farter isn't careful, right, they're looking like the nasty party right now, because they're being nasty to 51% of the population. That's a beautiful, beautiful political vote face. Don't you think? Labour are the nasty party because they're nasty to women. Get on a poster. Labour are a nasty party because they're nasty to women, right? Okay, now fine. What he's saying here essentially is, from the Conservative point of view, it looks like the grift is up. It's over, right? Okay, but it's not over, if you get my drift. But him saying that is important. It's a pivotal thing. Now then, I have something else which sort of hit me in the back of the head. And I thought this is a bit odd. Because there's still people waffling on about this conversion therapy bill, which nobody needs, that came out on Saturday the 22nd of April. So I read this in just a couple of days after I'd read about Starmer. Portugal to ban LGBTQ conversion therapy. And this is from the Brussels Times. No idea why a publication that's interested in vegetables will be talking about this. It's from the Brussels Times. Portugal to ban LGBTQ conversion therapy. Portugal's parliament... Listen carefully. Portugal's Parliament passed several bills expanding the rights of LGBTQ community on Friday. Why they're expanding the rights of these, alphabet soup nutters, nobody knows. Including a ban on conversion therapies aimed at changing gender identity or sexual orientation. Interesting they've got both there, because of course gender identity doesn't exist. the bills were on their first reading. The ruling Socialist Party, Cal's surprise, right? Portugal, wake up and smell the coffee, right? Socialist Party, which had an absolute majority in Parliament, absolute majority, these nutters, right? Proposed a text which establishes penalties of up to 2 years imprisonment for anyone found to be responsible for practices that facilitate or promote such therapies, conversion therapies. Conversion therapies are a pseudo-scientific practice trying to change someone's sexual orientation, correct, or gender identity, incorrect, to align with heterosexual and cisgender norms. Right, okay? It's the usual language and obfuscation. Similar bills have also been submitted by other parties, and the various texts will now have to be merged into one law before final adoption. Parliament also passed texts in favour of gender self-determination in a school context. So they're opening the kids up to, sterilisation and mutilation. But here's the interesting bit, right? Have a look at this article yourself. It's in the Dubras, because I can't make head nor tail of it. Right? It makes me a bit, what's going on here? Here's the important bit. The Strasbourg-based human rights organisation, which is the Council of Europe Human Rights Commissioner, Council of Europe Human Rights. The Strasbourg-based human rights organisation urged member states to put an end to these practices, which include various methods such as electroshock therapy, hormone intake, interesting, and exorcism rites. Your mother sews socks in hell, carrots. That sort of thing. Legally and usually under a medical or religious pretext. What do they mean by hormone intake? What do they mean by? Are they saying that to give somebody hormones to change their sexuality, i.e., which is what we've been doing to kids, is conversion therapy? Because I can't. What? Hello? This is at Portugal, a nation confused. You have a look and let me know what you think of the Dubras, because it's just crazy to me. More craziness soon. Keep going. It's spring, innit? It's glorious. Well, I was out the other day. I thought how lovely it is to see rabbits rutting. Goodbye.